He looked like someone who definitely had mental problems, but I don't think that in his case having mental problems was a defence for what he did. He was a very, very cold-blooded killer, and he would kill again.
Gardaí called on O'Donnell to surrender, but he grabbed the woman with the rifle to her head and threatened to blow her head off.
The young woman and son were ritually slain. Imelda Riney was shot in the left eye socket and her 3-year-old son in the left side of the head. Their bodies, he said, were found intertwined in a County Clare wood. The body of a priest, Father Joseph Walsh, was found nearby, and he was shot in the head. These were the cold, calculated and well-thought-out acts of Brendan O'Donnell.
Tá rá phobal timpeall ar a gceantas an pobal áid túil agus an pobal eile seo tá tris saoil da go téin a chothúd óibh féin. Agus cé go bhfuil siad mór go maiile na chéile, fanann siad ar dailtó na chéile.
Bhruach na seanna canta an chláir, pobal seanna bhanathe le taobh pobal malartach a bhagisteach. Ina measc siúd le na bertmach an talíontóir Imelda Riney.
If Imelda Riney had been a national school teacher, if she had been a stalwart of the local settled community, a churchgoer, and she had disappeared, within hours the flares would have gone up.
Ibran no cagahar an neolafihid. Imian Imelda Riney is a macliam Eric. A heniter O'Donnell igor Imelda, isha at mind, an yatabon.
He's seen by the local postwoman, who's possibly the best form of intelligence you can get in the local community.
Saharan and Trukadu law, ta skion and isha in winter. For his a car deutsche mach, ach die can glofi lay gdi an hedine. La bialtana, touriski an earkele Imelda an vert eririg dan a gardi. Fector O'Donnell Rish I Gaunter Aircourt.
Brendan had been down to my place. I did notice that he was extremely agitated. I offered him a change of clothes, I offered him some food, and I offered him some money. And I presume that he was so preoccupied with his upset that he didn't want anything at all from me.
Loan and Darala, boortse fobble fui level praine is rue macht na berte.
Is tócha an meo nagna a bhí ag muintir an phobal ag an am sin go raibh sois brethúnas déanta ag na Gardaí tuis gur bhí daoine rá gur hippie a bhí I Imelda Riney agus dá bhar go raibh seans go raibh si imthe ar seachrán ar feadh cúpla lá agus seans go mbeidh si ag fille 1 uair.
Tost fós sna main.
Bhí mé gobar ag léir a fem ag an am. Thula mar faoi maidin dé mát go raibh Imelda agus amach líam ar iarraí.
I remember the kind of growing sense of real concern and something terrible was going on around here. The countryside lends itself to that, to the notions of darkness. There was that feeling of something awful was going on. I remember that distinctly.
Nuair a cheangal muintir na háite Imeacht Imelda agus Liam le Brendan O'Donnell, bhí gachtain ará Teirgidí Craigwood, mar bíonn sé ann a gcónaí, bhí ráflaí dul timpeall na háite nuair nach mbeadh Brendan O'Donnell sa bhaile, bheadh fáil I Craigwood.
Démart Vector Brendan O'Donnell a huir I Gaunter Aircourt. Aite dug na hana bháthir béledó. Bí kindness ráide ná go raibh lá ag O'Donnell in Imeacht Winter Riney ach níl sin géalte fós ag na Gardaí. Hart bheanaithe I míonn sé le bánaí a ríis. Fúdaíonn sé sagart le gona, tá maineann siad go cuill na creige.
Early morning mass goers in the village of Aircourt, confused, bewildered and worried by the disappearance of their 37-year-old curate. A native of Donnell in County Tipperary, Father Welch has served here for the past 3 years.
Priest disappears. I wouldn't say they hit the panic button, but certainly everything was on high alert. You've got a potential here of a serial killing.
Décéadaín tar éis 5 lá a heniter car Imelda Riney.
Local people gathered outside the village church in Whitegate this morning to organise a search for Miss Riney and her son Liam as alarm about their disappearance intensified.
One person said that they saw her car travelling out of Whitegate, travelling north, which is not a direction that she would have been expected to take for any reason, and that there was someone else in the car at that time.
How worried are you now about her?
I'm desperately worried, of course, I'm desperately worried.
I'm Siog Caran Taggart, trúr an ishatáir érig. Ad a vítar ger céim in ish in Iarthar an Chláir.
Williamstown Pier is only a few miles from Imelda Riney's home at Whitegate, and a major land and air search got underway in the area at first light.
A heníon na Gardaí an príomh-áirastach faoi dheartha.
Gardaí in Loughrea say Father Welch's disappearance has given them added cause for concern. And with Imelda Riney and her son now missing for a week, they're extremely anxious to contact a young man who's believed to have been seen in their company on Friday last.
Well, with 3 persons missing and we don't know where they are, we are concerned about it.
Maidin de cédaoin ní raibh sim ag na Gardaí dul chun chórdach a dhéanamh do Imelda agus Liam, ach de sathern bhí na Gardaí ní bháin Gardaí na háite agus an stáisiún i Gildá Lua ach Gardaí an chunta i léig agus las mudin chunta bhí gachtain i héasan seo a chorador rátaí amach sa nuacht is cuiinlam bhí pictúr de Brendan O'Donnell sa fápéirí agus bhí na Gardaí ag impí ar tacht agus leabhartló mar bhí is acu ag an buinte sin go raibh Brendan O'Donnell buintach le rud éigean.
I thought Brendan would be desperate and he would come to my house. He always came when he was in trouble. So I stayed up all night, sitting here waiting. And in the morning a guard came for me and they'd spotted Brendan and to know would I go and talk to him. And I can tell you I was frightened at that time, you know, and I had a leather jacket, and actually my thoughts were, did he have a rifle or a shotgun? So my thoughts were, would the shotgun penetrate the leather jacket, at what distance, and all this was going through my head.
An saharan an tuchtú lá bealtaine le fórsa mór Garda sa dearg hóir a hála Fúdíon O'Donnell gíal óg maná mar scia.
The man was arrested at about 10 o'clock this morning on a small narrow road in Derry Golan Wood, about 2 miles from the South Galway village of Woodford, as Gardaí dramatically intercepted him and his female hostage as he attempted to hijack a second car. The man, who was carrying a rifle, had fired a number of shots before his arrest, but Gardaí managed to free the 17-year-old woman he had abducted at gunpoint.
After the dramatic release of the 17-year-old kidnapped victim, Fiona Sampson, there were early hopes that the other 3 missing people might be located.
That young girl whose car he hijacked on the Saturday was tremendously lucky that the guards just happened to get there at the right time. I remember talking to guards afterwards, there was no question in their minds that he was intent on continuing killing.
Le trúr fós a rérig, bhí sé práineach go bhaifi amach cá rabadar.
The man protested his innocence as he entered Loughrea Garda station, where he's being held for questioning.
I know nothing about the woman and kid that are missing and being blamed her on. That's why the pressure's on me.
Ach, céir a bheith an Brendan O'Donnell sa.
Níl éan a líonán a thuairg ionting an duine dit. There's no art to find a mind's construction in the face mar a dúirt Shakespeare fadó agus Macbeth agus stoilin go rabéis an ordstáte bhfuil mistéir áire buint leis.
Páiste suaimhionach a bethe rógáda bháthir. Cuireadh fri gúlagráin don fliucha leabige ganach ceire blianaige. Tháinig sé ar bháthir tar éis sé híreacht lámha car in a bás féin. Díhíodh Brendan in íse néim líana nuair a déag a bham gan cuine.
The child was very disturbed. And when I look back over the years of teaching before that and since, there was no other pupil that I felt that I couldn't reach.
Oh, blocked down by Paul O'Loughlin, but in there was Brendan O'Donnell. I wonder, was he in too far?
Gábhlíonn diog a bhí ag an léchamána nuair a dúmpa sé ar an
He kept us in the house, myself and some friends of mine and my brother, as hostages or whatever you'd like to call them, you know. So that ordeal went on for some time.
I watched him out the window, which was a lot of police around and a lot of people. He could load that gun faster than any man I ever seen in my life.
Asmacht is lena bheabhar galar go thomláin neamhchomhráilte. Cuireadh Brendan go honad cuineála Trinity House. Déile sé as, agus tháinig dídean á loragaige go Mary agus Tony Mugovan Gaelta I Maille I Bheoláin.
When Brendan came to me, he was homeless. He was very, very hungry, in an awful state, mentally and physically. Any parent that would look at him and look at my own children, how comfortable they were, and to see him wet in mud, covered in it, soaked, hungry, how could you not but take him in and at least give him food and help him, you know? And if I didn't do that, what message as a father was I sending to my children?
Doras an ahar dridte, fuair na Mugavans altramas sa chuirt is rinne níhil cór meabhrach dáilda.
I drove him to Ballinasloe, St. Anne's in Galway. You know, to me, that's a puzzle. How could they refuse to take in a young chap like that? They must have seen it. They're mental health professionals.
Ma dhéanann tú diagnosis crí ná sé sin má tá na resources good conne sin íon, ní mór dat comán san dailá leis. So tá sé go muna nach mór níos fosa gan tachtar nólas crí agus mar sinna sais leis géile gan an rud cearta dhéanamh.
Many people in this parish, Whitegate, Mount Shannon, were afraid of Brendan O'Donnell, treated him with respect one would associate with somebody that you wouldn't want to get in his bad books.
He had good days and bad days. Now, it could be a good week, but the next week, you couldn't stand him. No parent could put up with him. It's not possible to live with him.
Dain Sheracanish agus Anna Vroite, ní raibh dá las ag na Mugavans ach é ligan. Bhfuil sé stachar a hana bháthir in Aircourt.
I kept him upstairs there, up in that little small room. It's only like a kind of a loft, you know, but I kept him there for a long time. I kept him unknown to them. I hid him in it, and I used to steal the food to him, no, because they used to be giving out to me over keeping him, that I was only encouraging him to stay. What could I do? I couldn't see him hungry or out in the cold.
Nuair nach raibh siise in andó a hille, dír an seanna bharthar gar a séplínach an tathair Seán Neelan.
His grandmother kept him for approximately 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, Brendan wanted to move on. He had nowhere to go, so his grandmother called me to see if I could do something for him.
Dimig sé go sasanna in Arachan ócha trí, fuair blian is tígán do Robail. In Ibran nócha cahar, bhris sé a bhannaí agus díl cheantar na gata báine. Cha Brendan O'Donnell 8 fan géad da dhéagacht, a dolisteach is a teachtamachas onid cuineála, prisúin agus ospedéal bheabhar galir.
He came to see me hoping that I was going to look after him. I gave him some money on a particular evening. He looked very, very terrified and extremely frightened and totally deranged. He looked as if he was ready to explode.
Ibran nócha cahar an tochtú lá tá O'Donnell gafa, ach cáhfuil na daoine.
The hope tonight is that Imelda Riney, her son Liam, and the missing curate, Father Joe Welsh, may still be alive somewhere in this almost impenetrable expanse of woodland and bog. A short time ago, the Bishop of Clonfert, Dr. John Kirby, and one of his curates left Loughrea Garda station. It's understood that the priest, Father Seán Neelan, who's known to the Whitegate man being held here, spoke to him during the afternoon.
I talked to him about the details of what had happened. He denied everything for a long, long time. It eventually emerged that he could have been the culprit. Father Welsh, according to Brendan, said, "Don't kill yourself, kill me if you want to, and don't kill anybody else." And he decided to shoot Father Welsh in that particular site. Now, he decided to shoot the little boy because he didn't want the little boy to be deprived of the love of a mother.
And when you came out, obviously the guards were dying to know what's the story, because there were no bodies at this stage, nobody knew.
Absolutely, but unfortunately from my point of view there was no story, because everything that had been told to me was told in confidence, and I couldn't be of any help whatsoever to the police.
Bishop Kirby and Father Nealon appeared tense and concerned and declined to speak to journalists.
Trúr fós irig, Dír na Gardaí Tony Mugovan, Lord le Brendan O'Donnell.
He kept going on about the girls and the girls and the girls, so at one stage I got so angry and I said, F the girls. I said, what have they got to do with the people? And he seemed to get a little angry at me, and I said, Brendan, I said, I don't want you to tell me where they are. I said, I know exactly where they are, and I'm going now to find them. They're in Craigwood. So immediately he said they're not. So I knew I had him.
Garda Superintendent John Carey of Loughrea said they'd received unconfirmed reports that searches in the Craigwood area of North Clare had uncovered the body of a man.
Daimsigh siad Corp Joe Walsh ihide sahern an sin an ládar gion daimsigh siad Imelda agus Liam agus tá sé dechar coranúil de riine an tubist níomháin de bhaintear na háite ní a daoine fiúháin an labhairt faoi.
The body of Father Joe Welch was removed from the scene at Craigwood early this morning and brought to Ennis General Hospital for a post-mortem.
So scrúdú Bhais, furadar gur lábhacha an tathair Joe Walsh le pile rifle tréchú le cín. A gá glóin a bhí sé ag an am. Maríag an tuirte.
Throughout the day, there was intense activity around the Craigwood area as news filtered through that 2 more bodies, believed to be those of 29-year-old Imelda Riney and her little 3-year-old son Liam, had been found buried together in a shallow grave.
The beginning is now and ever shall be, world without end, amen. Oh Jesus, forgive us our sins.
I remember that child, the last time I saw him, he was full of life, and I was talking to Imelda Riney. And he was jumping up and down on the back seat of the car. And it was so sad, to think that he was lying in a forest, dead. And I saw our parish priest going in and coming back out. And he was crying. That was a moment for me that really I was overcome with emotion, but mostly anger.
Seoladh O'Donnell go Mountjoy, agus fágah clanna Imelda, Liam agus an tathair Joe, le Nimris, a Marig, a Méla, Ascris.
Unprecedented scenes of grief and loss have marked the funeral services for Aircourt curate Father Joe Walsh today.
People from the villages of Whitegate and Mount Shannon watched in stunned silence as the hearse carrying the coffins of Imelda Riney and her 3-year-old son Liam made their way to St Flannan's Church.
Another reason for mourning is the shattering realisation that evil can stalk the land even in this quiet and beautiful place.
The Minister for Justice, Maura Geoghegan-Quinn, told the Dáil that the procedures adopted by Gardaí investigating the abductions and killings of Miss Riney, her son Liam and Father Joe Welch are to be the subject of an internal investigation.
Rialig an chuirt dúithe go raibh O'Donnell in inmh cás dlí in a chuine a ragart. Thásig sé teist na mire.
An teist atá de Galtachas ná dúspáire rá isaige an méid a bhí áíanamh aige. nó má bhí aige rá isaige go raibh sé mí ceart agus muna bhfuil fiú más é se an freigar atá na ceiste sin. Tá an tríú ceist da agus is é sin a rá sé in an cosc a chur ar hain gan an méid sin a dhéanamh. Irresistible impulse an sort legan atá I méle. Agus meam go rá an sort galar aigna a bhí ag O'Donnell. Is tócha ináíre nach féidir rá go rá sé ciúntaach ináíre de bhar an stádas an rá sé.
Rud a hálíonn uirih in sa tailsa, go deastíon íobartach ón bobbal, ní dearn siad é sin a rud neamhráite seo, go mochíon daoine féach hálan tuafása da bhrí sin caafar duine éigen mar a déirtha a chur sa tine sin go mefarach caiig duine íocasa.
Hosig tríal Brendan O'Donnell sa phríomh cuairt cuireúil ar an gúiú lá anar nídíomh nócha sé é cúisithe inún bharú in Melde agus Liam Riney agus an tathair Joe Walsh, epic a lean 53 lá.
He claimed that the devil's voice told him to kill Imelda. He pointed his gun at her and told her to drive with him and her son Liam to Craigwood. He was, he said, feeling very happy because he was going to kill the devil's daughter. As his evidence continued today, he claimed he was hearing the devil's voice and couldn't concentrate. For the defence, Patrick McEntee invited the jury to follow him into what he called the virtual hell that has been the life of Brendan O'Donnell. Mr. McEntee said it's easy to give justice to well-behaved wrongdoers. It's the sick, unwell, the nasty and badly damaged that really need justice. He called O'Donnell a badly damaged creature.
No normal person could help Brendan O'Donnell. Everyday person, a normal person bringing up children. How could they help him? How could they deal with him?
Brendan O'Donnell, who tried to strangle himself at the Central Mental Hospital over 2 weeks ago, is expected back in the Central Criminal Court on Monday for the concluding chapter in what is now the longest-running jury trial in the state's history.
I don't know how many days I was there and he wasn't in court. So, you know, should there have been a court case? I'm not anyway legal-minded, but I thought, what for a court case? I listened outside one morning before the court, and I heard the prison warders talking. That Brendan was in Dundrum. That's a mental hospital. He had to come to Mountjoy and then come to the court. If he was insane, why was he in court?
It's been the longest murder trial in the history of the state. Today, on the 53rd day, it ended with Brendan O'Donnell facing life in prison. O'Donnell is tonight in Mountjoy Jail awaiting transfer later, probably to Arbour Hill. He will appear again for further sentence, but his fate has tonight been sealed.
An dearcha a bhí ag an phobal nuair a cheontaíodh é bhí gach duine rá tá deireadh leis sin ish. Bhí de rá le cúnamh dé ní beidh Brendan O'Donnell in our mask riamh a ríis.
Chuachlig corp agus aigna O'Donnell in achar bliana in Noon Drumma.
I visited with Brendan very, very often, at least once a month in the Central Mental Hospital in Dundrum, and I saw a huge change emotionally, physically, psychologically. Brendan was not the man that he used to be. He showed no remorse whatsoever.
Good evening. A post-mortem is to be carried out to establish the cause of death of the triple killer Brendan O'Donnell, whose body was discovered in a cell at Dublin's Central Mental Hospital in Dundrum this morning.
Bíonn é an deire agus an faoisib bavó a hála do na daoine, mar bhí isagu ag an am sin, bhí sé marmh anois níl seansar be go mbeidh Brendan O'Donnell an án fille bailí bheolán nó an gceatabáin. Is cinnte rá ní raibh daoine a cuine san áit seo.
Tara an in chosnaí, bás de bhar olgáile drugaí idish.
State pathologist Dr. John Harbison said Brendan O'Donnell had died of a fatal intoxication of the antipsychotic drug Mellaril.
Nuair a tharlaíonn le héad in ospidéal agus go háirithe ospidéal den taidh sin, ardíonn sé ceist faoi chunas a hála sé go raibh an deis aige na drogaí sin a thógáil. Ní dóilm go raibh éon sort fisracán ann. Beidir más duine é go raibh níos mó daoine a cuine ina dhiorg gymach a wad nís mó brúán.
I still get angry. And I think while I live, I will always be angry at the mental health professionals. It's their job to treat the sick people, and they failed. They failed from day one. And then I look at what Brendan did. A young mother, working to make a home for her 2 children. A young priest, and a young baby, dead. And then I think Brendan died shortly afterwards. And we say, you know, listen, lessons can be learned. When are these lessons going to be learned?
San látá nniuháin, dámeach Brendan O'Donnell in níos ceannú cuimhlín ag díos agus é ag marachtananta chunta an chlár agus dá ducach $5 meárachar. Is isteach in óspedéal de gaoine fásta sóca in inis go seol fie. Ní bheadh sé rúnach dó i 2009 agus ní raibh sé i rúnach sna 8 dí nuair is seola isteach san óspedéal Mélan na slua é.
If the families of the victims in crimes like this don't speak, then it becomes the story of the killer. If people choose to be silent, the story of the victim will never be told, and the pain of their families is extinguished.